Who are you, really? Do other people truly know you? What makes it so hard to be ourselves in some situations and so easy in others? Whether we're in school, on the job, or just navigating life, authenticity is the key to confidence. But why is it so hard to find? In the new series, Picking Apart the Self on To The Max, we're going to meet someone who's changing the world by helping people understand who they really are. Along the way, we'll pick apart social norms, discover strategies for tough, inspiring leadership, and learn how we can change the rules in a world that urges us to conform. This is To The Max, advice from today's experts to tomorrow's leaders. This is Dr. Tina Opie, Professor of Babson College, visiting scholar at Harvard Business School, and the Chief Vision Officer of Opie Consulting Group. As one of the foremost DEI experts in the nation, she combines business practice and academic theory to help individuals and organizations unearth their blind spots, build strong, diverse coalitions, and become authentic, conscientious leaders. Dr. Opie developed the trademarked Shared Sisterhood framework, an innovative methodology that has birthed a modern-day movement of individuality and sisterhood, and helped her instill change in organizations including American Express, Hulu, and the NFL. Watch out for Dr. Opie's book, Shared Sisterhood, which drops in fall 2022 through Harvard Business Press. In this first part of Picking Apart the Self, Dr. Opie will share her journey in business, academia, and society, starting with her very own experience in high school. So, Dr. Opie, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. I'm so excited to talk with you about your experiences and your work. And I guess my first question for you before we get into your work, I was wondering what you were like in high school and some of the things that have kind of influenced who you became today.
I'm a military brat. So my father was in the Navy and my mom was in the Marines. But what that meant was I traveled a lot, so I was always an outsider. In high school, I was accustomed to sort of learning how to connect with all different kinds of people. I was a nerd, but I was also in Toastmasters. I was also friends with people who were considered goths, with people who were considered the drama people, the dance squad. Does that make sense? And so I became very adept at understanding different viewpoints. One of the things that I kept hearing was different people from these different groups saying, I don't feel like people understand me. I don't feel like people respect me. And I think, honestly, that's part of being a teenager where we're working out our identity and figuring out where we fit in. But one of the things that I've always had a strength in, I've always spoken up and very much driven by justice. So as a little kid, I might be 6 or 7 and see someone beating up or bullying someone else. I didn't really think about that this person is bigger than me. I just saw that this was an injustice, and that carried out through high school. So I was able to take the different connections with the different groups, recognize the commonality, and then I think learn how to speak up for people who felt like they didn't have a voice. I've always been a serious reader. I mean, I was reading books like Roots, Soul on Ice, about the roots of Black and African-American history and culture. And I was very proud to be a Black person, despite the fact that we were, for example, enslaved. We've managed to be resilient and make it to the point where someone like you wants to interview someone like me. You know what I mean? It is a real blessing. So that's sort of a long answer to your question about how I was in high school.
Your work kind of spans like two, I think it seems like sometimes very different worlds, like the corporate American world and then also this world of academia. Can you talk a little bit about how maybe your experiences in both intersect and how they shape your perspective?
Yeah, and I would actually add a third world, which is my lived experience as a Black woman. And my mother picked cotton. And people say, what? Yes. So my lived experience is I'm a military brat, lived all over the world. Then I'm an academic, so I'm trained, and then I'm a former banker and consultant, and now I run my own consulting company. And one of the challenges I've had in academia is that I've always been interested in how academic theory applies to the real world. And then as a Black woman, I'm very much interested in how can we resolve inequities. When I am hired by a client, I always tell them, look, I'm a strong cup of coffee. You need to have a realistic preview of how it will be to work with me. I've actually fired companies because it became clear to me that it was performative or that they were not quite ready to do the real work. And my name is associated with that company, Max. If I get a sense that that my work is not going to influence their actual policies and procedures and the daily lived experiences of their employees, I will fire people or quit, et cetera, et cetera. No shade, but there are some people who will consult as long as there's a paycheck. I just don't feel like that is a good use of my time. It's also not a good legacy to leave. Every client that I work with, I want to be able, if they talk about me, to say, Tina, she's a strong cup of coffee. Like she said, she, ruffled some feathers. In fact, she plucked some feathers. She was snatching wigs in the meeting, whatever happened. But we reflected, and she got us to change our recruiting process and our hiring policies. And now we are actually having more equity. I can give you the academic theory, which explains why some of these things may be happening. I have the lived experience to maybe see the data through a different lens. And then I have the consulting experience where I can give you the tools and the strategies to actually close that gap. I also did stand-up comedy in college. And so I think of things that are probably inappropriate to say. So that's another challenge that I have, which is where I'm saying, okay, do I say this out loud? Is this appropriate for the group? So I want your people maybe in high school who watch your show, and you may be feeling like, I don't know if this is appropriate to say or not. I don't think that internal dialogue stops. And I actually think it's healthy. Because I think it's important for us to recognize that sometimes the things that we want to express may not be the most appropriate, but sometimes they are. And do we have the wisdom to recognize the difference and then the courage to speak up when it is an appropriate time?
I'm just learning a lot from hearing about your experiences and kind of how from when you were younger, really caring about justice, and really these three worlds come together with how you approach justice in your work, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it and discovered something you can apply in your own life. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. See y'all next time.